She was to be hanged at dawn, until the most feared gunslinger rode in and called her his bride. The twin suns of Dustfall Station rose slowly over the flat, white salt plains, painting the sky with soft shades of gold and red. The light touched the metal walls of the small frontier town and made them glow like fire. Most mornings were quiet here. Wind moved through broken towers and old solar panels, and traders opened their stalls with tired hands. But this morning was different. People gathered in the center of town, standing in a wide circle around a wooden platform that had been built during the night. The platform was simple and rough, but everyone knew what it was for. A tall post stood in the middle, with a thick rope tied near the top. The rope swayed gently in the morning wind. Mara Vale stood beneath it. Her hands were tied behind her back, but she held her head high. She was not tall or strong-looking. Her clothes were worn and dusty, like everyone else's in Dustfall. But her eyes were sharp, and they moved across the crowd with calm focus instead of fear. She listened to the low voices of the people around her. Some spoke with anger, some with worry, a few with quiet sadness. They believed she was dangerous. The marshal of Dustfall Station, a heavy man named Cole Harlan, stood near the edge of the platform. He held a small metal device in his hand, the official record of her crime. His voice carried across the crowd when he spoke. Mara Vale is accused of damaging the planetary defense relay 3 nights ago, he said. Because of this act, our town was left open to attack. If raiders had come, we would have had no warning and no shield. Many lives could have been lost. A murmur spread through the crowd. Fear was strong here. Out in the outer reaches, safety was rare and fragile. Mara closed her eyes for a moment and took a slow breath. She had heard this speech before. She had tried to explain what really happened. She had tried to tell them she did not break the relay. She tried to turn it on, but the truth was harder to believe than the lie. Mara had a gift or a curse, depending on who was looking. She could touch ancient alien machines and feel them respond to her. She could hear systems that no one else could hear. Long ago, she learned to hide this ability. People feared what they did not understand. On frontier worlds like Dustfall, fear often became anger. 3 nights ago, she felt something calling to her from the defense relay tower at the edge of town. The tower was old, built from a mix of human steel and strange alien metal. No one really knew how it worked. They only knew it still powered the shield that protected Dustfall from space threats. Myra followed the call. When she touched the relay, she felt a deep, sleeping system under the surface, something much larger than the shield, something that had not been awake for a very long time. She tried to reach it. Instead, the relay shut down. Alarms rang across the town. The shield faded. People ran. Guards found Mara at the base of the tower, her hands still on the glowing metal. To them, the answer was simple. She broke it. Now she stood under the rope as the town waited for the final moment. Marshal Harlan raised his hand. At dawn, the sentence will be carried out. The execution bell stood near the platform. A small boy was assigned to ring it when the moment came. He held the rope with shaking hands. Myra looked at the sky. The suns were almost fully above the horizon. This was how it ended, she thought, not with the truth known but buried under fear. Then she heard it. At first, it was just a sound in the distance, a low hum that did not belong to the wind. A deep, steady vibration that traveled across the salt flats like a rolling wave. People turned their heads. The sound grew louder. A shape appeared on the far edge of town where the white ground met the red sky. It moved fast, kicking up dust and salt behind it. As it came closer, the shape became clear. A hoverbike, not a trader's model. Not a town patrol ride. This machine was long, dark, and heavy, with armor plates and wide engines that glowed with blue light. It looked like it had crossed 100 battlefields and survived them all. The bike slowed as it entered the town, the hum dropping to a quiet growl. The rider sat tall in the saddle. He wore a long coat that moved in the breeze and a wide hat that cast a shadow over his face. A blaster rested at his side, old but well cared for. A whisper spread through the crowd like fire. Rook Calder! Some said the name with fear. Some with disbelief. Some like they were saying a story instead of a person. Rook Calder was a legend of the outer reaches, a gunslinger who walked into war zones and walked out alone, a man who faced alien warlords and pirate kings and never lost. Some said he was not even human anymore. Others said he had been dead for years. Mara had heard the stories, but she had never believed them, until now. The bike stopped at the edge of the platform. The rider turned off the engine. The silence that followed felt heavy, like the whole town was holding its breath. He swung his leg over the side and stepped onto the ground. Rook Calder was tall, broad-shouldered, and moved like someone who was always ready for a fight, even when standing still. His face was marked by old scars, thin lines across his jaw and cheek. His eyes were calm, but there was something hard behind them, like steel underwater. Marshal Harlan stepped forward. "This is an official town matter," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "You have no place here." Rook looked at him for a long moment, then he looked at Mara. Their eyes met. Mara felt a strange pull in her chest, like the same call she felt from the alien machines. She did not know why, she did not know how. But something about this man felt connected to her fate. Rook walked forward, slow and sure, until he stood at the base of the platform. The crowd moved back without thinking, creating a clear path for him. He lifted his voice, calm but strong. "That woman is mine," he said. "She is my bride." The words hit the air like a shockwave. The crowd erupted into noise, shouts, laughter, angry cries. The marshal stared at Rook like he had lost his mind. Mara froze. Bride? She had never seen this man in her life. Marshal Harlan raised his hands. "This is not the time for jokes," he said. "Step back or I will have you removed." Rook did not move. "Under frontier law, a bonded claim overrides a town sentence," he said. "You know this." Harlan hesitated. His eyes flicked to the small metal device in his hand, pulling up old legal codes. Everyone knew the law Rook was talking about. It was ancient, made in the early days of human expansion, when small settlements were often days or weeks away from any central government. A bonded claim, a formal declaration of partnership, meant one person could take responsibility for another's actions. It was rarely used, and never like this. Mara's heart raced. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Rook stepped closer to the platform. "I take full responsibility for her," he said. "Her actions, her choices, her future. If you believe a crime was committed, then I answer for it." The marshal looked at the crowd. Fear and uncertainty were written on many faces. Rook Calder's name carried weight here. Not just fear, but respect. He was known for keeping his word. Slowly, Harlan lowered his device. "Cut her loose," he said. A guard stepped forward, hands shaking, and untied the rope from Mara's wrists. Mara stumbled as the feeling returned to her hands. She caught herself and stood straight. Rook offered her a hand. After a moment, she took it. His grip was firm and warm, real. He leaned close and spoke in a low voice only she could hear. "If you want to live, come with me." Myra looked at the crowd, at the platform, at the rope still swaying in the wind. Then she looked back at the gunslinger. "I don't even know your name," she said. "Rook Calder," he replied. She gave a small, nervous laugh. "Of course it is." They walked through the silent crowd toward the hoverbike. No one tried to stop them. As they reached the edge of town, a warning siren began to sound. A long, rising wail that cut through the air. Rook turned his head, eyes scanning the sky. "Looks like we're out of time," he said. Myra followed his gaze. Far above the town, small dark shapes moved against the light of the twin suns. Ships, not human. Her heart sank. Rook helped her onto the bike and climbed on behind her. The engine roared back to life. "Hold on," he said. The bike lifted off the ground and shot forward, away from Dustfall Station, away from the gallows, and toward a future Mara could not yet understand. Behind them, the sirens screamed, and the sky began to change. The hoverbike raced across the salt plains, its engines cutting through the dry wind like a sharp blade. Dustfall Station grew smaller behind them, its metal towers and glowing lights fading into the pale morning haze. The twin suns climbed higher in the sky, but the warmth they brought did not reach Myra's chest. Her heart was still pounding, her thoughts spinning like the ground beneath the bike. She held onto the sides of the seat, unsure if she should trust the man behind her. Rook Calder sat steady, one hand on the controls, the other ready near his blaster. His coat snapped in the wind, and his wide hat stayed firm on his head like it was part of him. The sirens from the town faded, replaced by the deep hum of the open plains. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Myra finally broke the silence. "You said I was your bride," she said. Her voice almost disappeared in the wind. "Why?" Rook slowed the bike slightly, letting the engines drop to a softer growl. "Because it was the fastest way to stop them from killing you." "That doesn't explain why you were there at all," she said. He glanced back at her, his eyes hidden behind dark lenses. "I've been looking for you." Mara's grip tightened. "How did you even know who I was?" Rook guided the bike toward a line of tall, broken metal towers in the distance. They were old wind collectors, left behind from a failed terraforming project. Their long arms stood frozen against the sky like the bones of giant creatures. "We need cover," he said. "Those ships won't take long to reach the town, and if they scan the area, they might scan us too." He brought the bike down between two fallen towers. The engines powered down, and the sudden quiet felt heavy. Mara climbed off and turned to face him. "You didn't answer my question." Rook removed his hat and wiped sweat from his brow. Up close, his face looked older than she first thought, not just in years, but in experience. His eyes had seen too many battles, too many endings. "I knew about you because I knew about the relay," he said, "and about what's really hidden inside it." Mara's breath caught. "You felt it too," Rook nodded. "A long time ago." She stared at him. "Then you know I didn't break it. You know I tried to wake something up." "Yes," he said, "and that's why you're still alive." Myra took a step back. "What does that mean?" Rook walked over to one of the fallen towers and leaned against it. "It means you're part of something much bigger than Dustfall Station, bigger than this whole system." Myra crossed her arms, trying to steady herself. "Then start talking." Rook took a slow breath. "Years ago, before you ever touched that relay, humans were losing a quiet war, not a loud one with fleets and planets burning, a slow one. Territory taken piece by alien empires that saw us as weak, easy to push aside. Mara had heard rumors. Everyone in the outer reaches had, but rumors were just stories. This sounded different. "We didn't have the numbers or the ships to fight them head-on," Rook continued. "So we did something else. We stole." "Stole what?" she asked. "Technology, ideas, systems. We found old alien networks buried on dead worlds. We learned how they worked. And we built something new with them. A defense system that didn't just protect one town or one planet. It could protect entire regions of space." Mara felt the same deep pull in her chest she felt near the relay. "The sleeping system." Rook looked at her sharply. "That's what you felt?" "Yes," she said. "Like it was waiting, like it knew I was there." Rook nodded slowly. "Only a few humans can feel it. We don't know why. Maybe it's something in the brain, maybe something in the blood, but people like you are keys. Without you, the system stays locked." Myra shook her head. "Then why wasn't it used? Why leave towns like Dustfall so alone?" Rook looked away, his jaw tightening. "Because I helped shut it down." The words hung in the air between them. "You what?" Myra said. "When the system first came online, it was powerful," he said. "Too powerful. It didn't just defend, it could strike back, hard. Some leaders wanted to use it to take control of alien space, not just protect our own." Myra felt a chill. "So you turned it off." "I was part of a group that did," he said. "We believed humanity wasn't ready to hold that kind of power. We broke the network into pieces and hid the control points. The relay at Dustfall was one of them." Mara clenched her fists. "So my town almost died because of a choice you made." Rook met her eyes. "Yes." Silence fell again, thicker than before. Mara turned away, looking out at the endless white plains. Her life had been small, moving from station to station, hiding her gift, trying not to draw attention, and now she was being told she was part of a hidden war for the future of her entire species. "You said you've been tracking me," she said quietly. "Why now?" "Because the aliens found traces of the network," Rook said. "They know something is hidden in human space, and they're searching for it. Those ships near Dustfall weren't raiders, they were scouts." Mara's heart dropped. "Then they'll keep coming." "Yes," he said, "in greater numbers." Mara turned back to him. "So what's the plan?" "Run forever?" Rook shook his head. "No, we wake the system." Mara laughed, short and sharp. "You just told me you shut it down because it was too dangerous." "I was wrong," he said. "We've had decades to grow, to learn, to decide who we want to be. If we don't stand up now, we won't get another chance." Mara studied his face. She saw doubt there, fear, hope. "You don't know if I can even control it," she said. "No," Rook admitted. "But I know you're the only one close enough to try." A distant sound rolled across the plains, a deep, heavy pulse in the air. Rook turned his head. "They're scanning." Mara felt it too, a pressure in her skull like something brushing against her thoughts. Rook grabbed his hat and placed it back on his head. "We need to move." They climbed back onto the hoverbike. As the engines powered up, Mara looked back toward the sky. The dark shapes of the alien ships were clearer now, cutting through the clouds like shadows. The bike surged forward, heading toward a line of rocky hills in the distance. The ground changed from flat salt to rough stone and broken earth. Old human outposts lay scattered across the land, half buried and forgotten. They stopped near the entrance of a small bunker built into the side of a hill. The door was marked with faded human symbols and strange alien lines that glowed faintly as Myra stepped closer. She felt the pull again, stronger this time. "This is another control point," she whispered. Rook nodded. "One of the smaller ones. If you can open this, it means the larger network might still listen to you." Myra placed her hand on the door. The metal was cold, then warm, then something else entirely. The symbols brightened, and the door slid open with a soft, smooth sound. Rook let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Inside, the bunker was dark, lit only by soft blue lines running along the walls. A central console stood in the middle of the room, its surface alive with slow-moving light. Myra stepped forward, her heart racing. "What if I wake something we can't control?" Rook stood beside her. "Then we face it together." She looked at him. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," he said. "You didn't run when the system called to you. You tried to understand it. That tells me who you are." Myra took a deep breath and placed both hands on the console. The light surged. Far above them, in the silent space between stars, ancient machines began to stir. The light from the console filled the bunker with a soft blue glow. The walls seemed to breathe, lines of energy moving like slow rivers through the metal. Myra stood still, both hands pressed flat against the smooth surface. Her eyes were closed, but her face showed deep focus, like she was listening to a voice no one else could hear. Rook watched her closely. He stood near the doorway, blaster in hand, eyes scanning the rocky hills outside through the narrow opening. The alien ships were still somewhere in the sky. He could feel it in his bones. Trouble never stayed far from him for long. Inside the bunker, the air grew warmer. Myra's breath became slow and steady. In her mind, she felt the same deep system she touched before, but this time it felt closer, clearer, like a door that had been opened just a little. She saw shapes and lines of light behind her closed eyes. Not pictures, not words, but something between them. Paths, connections, stars linked by shining threads, the network. She gasped softly and pulled her hands back. The light on the console dimmed, but it did not go dark. Rook rushed to her side. "What did you see?" Myra leaned against the console, trying to steady herself. "It's everywhere," she said. "Not just around this system, it reaches far across human space, maybe farther than that." Rook nodded slowly. "That was the idea." Myra looked up at him. "It's not just a weapon, it's like a shield and a voice, like it was meant to let humans speak to the galaxy, not just fight it." Rook gave a small, tired smile. "That's not how it was used before." Myra stepped away from the console and walked around the room. The walls showed faint images now, shapes of stars and distant worlds. The bunker felt less like a hiding place and more like a doorway to something vast. "I don't think the system wants to be controlled," she said. "I think it wants to be guided." Rook raised an eyebrow. "That's a dangerous difference." Before she could answer, a sharp sound echoed outside, the low, rising whine of engines. Rook moved to the door and peeked out. "Scouts," he said. "Two of them, small ships, but fast." Myra's heart jumped. "They followed us." Rook checked his blaster. "Looks like it." The bunker lights flickered. The console pulsed once, then again, like a slow heartbeat. Myra felt it. The system was reacting to the ships, not attacking, watching. "They're scanning the area," she said. "The network can feel them." Rook looked back at her. "Can you make it do more than feel?" Myra swallowed. "I don't know. I've never gone this far before." The sound outside grew louder. Shadows passed over the rocky ground near the entrance. Rook took position beside the door. "You may not get a second chance." Myra returned to the console. She placed one hand on it, then the other. This time, she did not close her eyes. The room filled with light again, brighter than before. The shapes on the walls sharpened into clearer images. She saw the two alien ships from above, like the system was showing her its own view. "They look like insects," she whispered. Rook glanced at the wall and froze. "You're seeing through the network," Myra nodded. "It's showing me what it sees." She focused on the ships, trying to understand the system's language, not words, not commands, feelings, intent. She pushed a simple idea into the light, protect. The console hummed. Outside, the ground trembled. Rook spun around and aimed his blaster just as the air in front of the bunker shimmered. A wide, curved wall of glowing energy appeared, stretching across the entrance like an invisible door made of light. The first alien ship fired a beam of red energy. It struck the shield and scattered like sparks against glass. Rook stared. "You did that." Mara's hands shook. "I didn't tell it to, I just asked it to protect." The second ship moved to the side, trying to find a way around the shield. The network reacted, extending the glowing barrier wider, wrapping the bunker in a soft blue dome. The ship circled, confused. Rook let out a breath. "Looks like it listens to you." Mara felt both relief and fear. "Then I can't make a mistake." The ships pulled back, rising higher into the sky. After a few moments, they turned and sped away, disappearing into the clouds. The shield slowly faded. Silence returned. Myra pulled her hands from the console and sank down onto a low metal step, her legs weak. Rook knelt in front of her. "You just scared off alien scouts with a thought." Myra gave a small, shaky smile. "No pressure, right?" Rook chuckled softly, then grew serious. "This changes everything. If you can guide the system like that, humanity finally has a chance to stand on equal ground." Mara looked down at her hands. "I don't feel like a leader. I feel like someone who's about to break something very big." Rook stood and offered her a hand. "Every leader feels that way at first." They left the bunker and climbed back onto the hoverbike. The sky was clear again, but the air felt different, like the world was holding its breath. They rode through the rocky hills and into a wide valley where old human cities lay in ruins. Tall buildings leaned at strange angles, half buried in sand and stone. Broken roads stretched into the distance like faded lines on a map. Mara looked around. What happened here? Rook slowed the bike. This was Skyreach, one of the first big human colonies in this region. It fell during the early border wars. Mara felt a sadness she could not explain. Did the network exist back then? Yes, Rook said, but it was still hidden. We were afraid to use it. They passed through the silent streets. Wind moved through empty windows, making soft, lonely sounds. Mara closed her eyes for a moment and reached out with her senses. The network responded. She could feel other control points like distant stars calling back to her. "There are more like the bunker," she said. "All over." Rook nodded. "We built them everywhere humans settled." Myra opened her eyes. "Then we don't have to fight alone, we can wake them all. Let people see what we can really do." Rook smiled, a real one this time. "That's the spirit." A warning beep sounded from the bike's console. Rook frowned. "Long-range scan, big signal." Myra felt it too, a heavy presence in the sky, far away but powerful. "Not scouts," she said. "Something bigger." Rook turned the bike toward a high ridge. "Let's get a look." They reached the top and stopped. The view opened wide, showing the valley and the distant sky beyond. A massive shape moved among the clouds. A ship larger than anything Mara had ever seen. Dark, wide, and covered in glowing lines of alien symbols. Her stomach dropped. "That's not just a ship, that's a command vessel." Rook's face hardened. They didn't like losing their scouts. The ship hovered in the distance like a storm waiting to break. Mara felt the network stir again, this time not just near her but far, far away, other points waking, other systems listening. "They know I'm here," she whispered. Rook looked at her. "Then it's time the galaxy knew humans are still here too." Myra took a deep breath and placed her hand on the bike's metal frame. She reached out through the network, not to one console, but to all of them. She sent one simple message into the stars. "We are not alone. And we are not afraid." Far across human space, old machines lit up, shields powered on, signals spread. People looked up at their skies in wonder as lines of light crossed the stars. The alien command ship paused, its movement slowing. For the first time in a long while, humanity did not feel small. Mara opened her eyes. Tears ran down her cheeks, but she was smiling. Rook placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "Looks like you just rang a very big bell." Mara laughed softly. "Let's hope someone answers." The wind carried their laughter across the ruins of Skyreach, into a future that was no longer hidden, no longer quiet, and no longer afraid. The sky above the valley changed first. At the edge of the clouds, thin lines of light appeared, like cracks in the air itself. They spread slowly, forming glowing paths across the blue. Myra stood on the ridge beside Rook, her hand still resting on the cold metal of the hoverbike. She could feel the network now, not as a distant thing, but as something alive around her, like a quiet river flowing through the stars. The massive alien command ship shifted its position. Its dark surface reflected the new light in the sky, and the glowing symbols along its sides pulsed faster, like a heartbeat speeding up. "They're nervous," Mara said softly. Rook kept his eyes on the ship. "Good, means they didn't expect this." A deep sound rolled across the valley. Not thunder, not engines, but something in between. The network was moving. High above, small points of light appeared one by one. They grew brighter, then clearer. Satellites. old human defense platforms, long silent, now waking. They spread across the sky like a second set of stars, forming wide circles around the planet. Myra felt each one connect to her like hands reaching out in the dark. It was overwhelming, but she did not pull away. She focused on one thought, simple and strong: protect humanity. Rook glanced at her. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. The alien ship moved forward, slow and steady. Smaller ships poured out from its sides like a swarm leaving a hive. They fanned out across the sky, heading toward the valley and the distant lights of human settlements beyond. Rook mounted the hoverbike. We can't fight a fleet from here. Mara climbed on behind him. We don't have to, the network will. The bike roared to life and sped down the ridge, heading back toward Dustfall Station. The ground shook as they flew over broken roads and empty fields. In the distance, the town's metal towers came into view. People were already in the streets, pointing at the sky. Children clung to their parents. Traders stood frozen beside their stalls. Everyone could see the lines of light and the glowing platforms moving into place above them. Mara felt their fear through the network like a low, heavy wave. They don't understand, she said. Rook guided the bike toward the center of town. Then show them. They landed near the old execution platform. The rope still hung from the post, swaying gently in the wind, forgotten. Marshal Harlan pushed through the crowd. His face was pale, his eyes wide. What did you do? He demanded. Mara stepped forward. Her voice was calm, but it carried. I woke something we should have never let sleep. Before Harlan could answer, a bright flash cut across the sky. One of the alien ships fired a beam toward the town. The network reacted instantly. A wide shield of blue light formed over Dustfall Station, covering the buildings, the streets, the people. The beam struck the shield and scattered into 1,000 harmless sparks that rained down like glowing snow. The crowd gasped. Rook looked up and laughed once, sharp and loud. That's more like it. The alien ships adjusted their position, firing again. The shields held. Above, the defense platforms shifted, moving into new patterns. Mara closed her eyes and reached out. She did not try to command. She listened. The network showed her its choices, its paths, its answers. She felt a gentle push in her mind. Allow, she nodded. From the platforms, thin beams of light shot out, not red or violent, but white and clear. They passed through the alien ships, not destroying them, but cutting their engines. One by one, the smaller ships lost power and drifted to a stop in the sky. The command ship pulled back, its symbols flashing in rapid patterns. They're retreating, Rook said. Mara shook her head. Not yet, they're thinking. The ground trembled again, stronger this time. Far beyond the valley, something large moved, another ship, then another. More dark shapes appeared on the horizon, rising into the sky like distant storms. Rook's smile faded. Looks like they brought friends. Mara's heart raced. The network stretched farther, connecting to more platforms, more systems. She felt humans on other worlds looking up, seeing the same lights, the same shields. They were all connected now. Mara stepped onto the platform and turned to face the crowd. Listen to me, she said. This isn't just about Dustfall. This is about all of us. We've been hiding for too long. We've been afraid to stand up. That ends today. People stared at her silent. The marshal lowered his weapon. You're saying we can fight them? Mara shook her head. We don't have to fight. We can protect. We can show them we're not weak. We can show them we belong here. The alien fleet moved closer, filling the sky with dark shapes and glowing lines. The air felt heavy, charged. Rook climbed onto the platform beside her. She's right, he said. I've seen what happens when humans run. We lose. This is the first time we've had a chance to stand still and say no. Mara reached out through the network again. She did not send a command this time. She sent a message. We are here. We do not seek to take what is yours, but we will not give up what is ours. The network carried her words not as sound, but as light and energy spreading across space toward the alien fleet. The ship slowed. The command ship moved forward alone, stopping at the edge of the shield's range. A beam of soft green light extended from it, touching the air in front of the town. An image appeared in the light, a tall, thin figure with glowing eyes and smooth, dark skin. Not human, but not a monster either. It looked curious, careful. Rook whispered, "First contact." The figure tilted its head. Its voice did not come through the air, but through the network, through the shields, through Mara's mind. You have awakened an ancient system. It does not belong to you. Mara took a step forward. Her voice was steady. We built it. We learned it. We care for it. That makes it ours. The figure studied her. Your kind is young. Young species with great power often bring destruction. Mara thought of Scarich. Of broken cities and silent streets. So do species that think only they deserve to survive. The figure was silent for a long moment. Rook watched the sky, his hand near his blaster, even though he knew it would be useless against a fleet. Finally, the figure spoke again. You shield instead of strike. You speak instead of demand. This is unexpected. Mara felt the network respond like a soft hum of agreement. We don't want a war, she said. We want a future. The alien image faded slightly. Many of our kind saw humans as shadows, small. Easy to move aside. Today you stand in the light. The command ship slowly pulled back. The smaller ships followed, drifting away from the valley, away from the town, away from human space. The sky grew quiet again. The shields remained, glowing softly over Dustfall and beyond. A cheer rose from the crowd. People hugged each other. Some cried, some laughed. The fear that had lived in their hearts for years began to loosen its grip. Myra stepped down from the platform, her legs shaking. Rook caught her before she could fall. You did it. She shook her head. We did. Marshal Harlan approached, his expression changed. The anger and doubt were gone, replaced by something like respect. I was wrong about you, he said. About what you are. Myra gave a tired smile. So was I. The network hummed gently in the back of her mind. It was no longer a sleeping thing. It was awake, watching, waiting. Rook looked up at the sky where the last alien ship disappeared into the clouds. This won't be the last time, he said. Myra nodded. No. But next time we won't be alone. As the suns began to set, the shields over Dustfall glowed brighter, painting the town in soft blue light. For the first time in its history, the frontier settlement did not feel like the edge of the galaxy. It felt like the center of something new. Myra stood beside Rook, watching the light fade into the stars. She felt tired, hopeful, and strong all at once. The future was no longer a quiet, hidden thing. It was wide open. The night over Dustfall Station was calm in a way it had never been before. The twin suns had set, leaving behind a sky filled with stars and soft blue light from the glowing shields high above the town. The air felt lighter, like the fear that once lived in every shadow had finally been chased away. People moved through the streets with quiet smiles, talking in low voices, pointing up at the sky, still unable to believe what they had seen. Myra stood at the edge of the town, looking out across the salt plains. The wind brushed against her face, cool and gentle. The network hummed softly in her mind, no longer loud or overwhelming, but steady and warm, like a distant heartbeat that reminded her she was not alone. Rook stood a few steps behind her, leaning against his hoverbike. His coat hung loose, and his blaster rested quietly at his side. For the first time since she had met him, he looked like a man who did not need to be ready for a fight every second. You could stay here, he said. They'd build you a house, put your name on a street, make you a hero. Mara smiled without turning around. I don't think I'm made for being still. Rook nodded. Neither am I, she turned to face him. You're leaving. Yeah, he said. That's what I do. The words were simple, but there was something heavy behind them. Myra walked back toward him. The network doesn't end here. It reaches other worlds, other towns, other people who don't even know they're connected yet. Rook lifted his head slightly. Sounds like someone needs to go wake them up. Myra met his eyes. Sounds like someone already has a bike. Rook laughed softly, the sound low and surprised, like he had forgotten how to do it. You're serious. I am, she said. I can feel them, the control points. The systems, they're quiet like Dustfall was, waiting. Rook studied her for a long moment. You know what that means, right? No more hiding, no more small life. Myra looked up at the stars. I never really had a small life. I was just pretending I did. They stood in silence for a moment, listening to the wind and the soft hum of the shields far above. Footsteps approached from behind them. Marshal Harlan walked up, his hands resting at his sides instead of on his weapon. We've been talking, he said. The town council. The traders, the families. Mara turned to him. About what? About you, he said, and what you showed us today. Rook raised an eyebrow. That usually doesn't end well. Harlan gave a small smile. This time it might. He looked at Mara. We want Dustfall to be a place where people like you don't have to hide, where the network isn't something to fear, but something to protect. Myra felt a warmth in her chest. That means more than you know. Harlan nodded. If you ever need a place to come back to, this one's yours. Mara thanked him and he walked away, leaving them alone again. Rook cleared his throat. Looks like you just made yourself a home. Myra shook her head. No, I found a starting point. She stepped closer to the bike and placed her hand on its metal frame. The network responded softly, like it recognized the machine as part of her path now. Where do we go first? Rook asked. Myra closed her eyes and reached out with her senses. She felt distant worlds, faint signals, quiet systems buried under old cities and forgotten stations. There's a place 2 jumps from here, she said. A mining colony called Red Harbor. They had trouble years ago, lost contact with half their settlements. Rook mounted the bike. Sounds like a good place for trouble to hide. Myra climbed on behind him. Sounds like a good place to bring light. The bike lifted off the ground and drifted forward, then paused. Rook glanced back at the town one last time. You sure? He asked. Myra looked at the glowing shields, the quiet streets, the people who were no longer afraid. Yeah, she said. They're safe now, that's the point. Rook nodded and pushed the engine forward. They flew across the salt plains, leaving Dustfall behind. The town grew smaller, then vanished into the dark. High above them, the defense platforms shifted and moved, following the path of the network, adjusting to the new shape of human space. Lines of light crossed the stars, connecting world to world, system to system. On a distant planet, a farmer looked up from his fields as a soft blue glow appeared in the sky. On a trading station near the edge of known space, a tired pilot paused mid-step as his console lit up with a symbol he had never seen before. On a forgotten outpost in the deep black, an old machine hummed back to life for the first time in decades. Humanity was waking up. Myra felt it all, not as a burden, but as a shared breath. They landed on a high ridge overlooking a wide canyon filled with red rock and glowing crystal veins. This was a quiet place, far from any town or station. The stars above were bright and close, like you could reach out and touch them. Rook cut the engine, and the sudden silence felt deep and peaceful. Myra slid off the bike and walked to the edge of the ridge. The wind here was strong, carrying the smell of stone and dust. She closed her eyes and reached into the network again. This time, she did not look for danger. She looked for people. She felt a group of engineers on a space station arguing over a broken power system. She felt a family huddled together in a dark home during a long night on a cold world. She felt a young pilot staring out at the stars, dreaming of something more. She sent them all the same gentle message. You are not alone. Rook watched her, a quiet respect in his eyes. You're changing things, he said. Myra opened her eyes. So are you. You just didn't realize it yet. Rook snorted softly. I always thought I was just good at ending things. Maybe you're better at starting them, she said. They shared a small smile. Rook leaned against the bike. You know, back there in Dustfall when I called you my bride. Myra raised an eyebrow. Yeah, that was just a law trick, he said. Didn't mean anything by it. Myra crossed her arms. I figured. A pause stretched between them. But, Rook added, if we're going to be crossing half the galaxy together, might as well keep the story. Myra laughed, a real laugh, free and light. The most feared gunslinger and the girl who talks to machines. Sounds like a legend already, he said. The wind carried their laughter out into the canyon and up toward the stars. Far away in the deep dark of space, the alien fleet watched the growing web of light spread across human territory. They did not move forward. They did not attack. They waited, and for the first time, so did humanity. Myra and Rook climbed back onto the bike and lifted into the sky, following a glowing path only she could see. The network guided them forward, not to war, but to connection, to protection, to a future that was no longer hidden in the shadows. As they disappeared into the night, the stars above seemed to shine a little brighter. The frontier was no longer the edge of the galaxy.